Are you struggling to regain sustainability in your life and create a positive life stance? If so, listen in as courageous women share their empowering struggle of how they came through the trenches to restart and recreate a victorious life worth living. They took their power back. Learn the secrets of how they did it, and you can too. Welcome to the Real Heart Talk podcast and 360 Network for Women. And here's your host, Pamela Duran.
Welcome, Real Heart Talk listeners. You are enough. Tonight, we have a fabulous guest all the way from New Orleans. It's Jennifer Cotney. And Jennifer is the co-founder and assistant director of Christian Mix 106 and on-air host as well. The office manager, the WBSN Live Songs New Orleans. She's a multi-award winning Christian poet and writer, and a special needs mom. And we're so happy to have you tonight, Jennifer. Thank you. And it's her birthday, y'all. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you, Pamela. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm glad that you can come and share your but God testimony. I can't wait to hear about that, because you know what? All of us, where would we be but God? Right? He comes in right on the scene, right in time, whenever we need him. And I know a lot of our listeners maybe in need tonight, need an encouraging word, or just to know how you made it through. So share your testimony with us. Let's hear your powerful word.
Well, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a writer. That was the dream I had in my heart. And I remember in high school and college, it was gently suggested, hey, you don't really, it's a hard career. You don't have the talent right off the bat. You're going to have to do a lot of work. Why don't you think of something else? I ended up going into television production. And I met my husband. We did some concert production as well, live theater, which was my husband's wheelhouse. I met him. We fell in love. We got married. I moved to Montgomery, and I took a real job working for a local TV station in Montgomery. And we started having babies and had a family. I forgot about my childhood dream. Eventually, I ended up with all three children on the autism spectrum. My oldest was nonverbal. My middle son was also visually impaired. And then my daughter is Asperger's so she's genius level. So completely different experiences with all three children. And I needed to come home. I needed to be a stay-at-home mom, which was the one thing I did not want to do with my life. I thought that sounded like the most boring waste of time ever. And I never saw myself as being a mom anyway, much less a stay-at-home mom. But then I found myself there. And, life gets very busy when you're raising kids. I have amazing children, and they are just thriving in every sense of the word. And none of that is me. A lot of that is the school system that we're in and the teachers that we have. And most of that, I should say 100% of that is grace, because it's all the Lord and his mercy. It's funny that I don't know what God's doing, but he's definitely got a plan. And I've learned, especially as a special needs mom over the years, that I can worry, but in the end, God's in control, and he knows what he's doing better than I do. So, I got to a point in my life where my children don't need me as much anymore. They're becoming more and more independent, and I need to go back to work and do something. And at the time, it was 2017. It was springtime. I had a job that I loved. I found it very fulfilling. I worked in animal rescue, and I was able to use my background in television and combine the two. And I worked for a famous animal rescue that has a TV show. And we'll put it that way. My husband worked there as well. And I was trained. I worked with aggressive animals, and I was trained in breaking up dog fights. So one day I had four fosters at the time at my house. Well, I had two dogs of my own and two were fosters. All of them are rescues, and we had a dog fight at my house. And
No.
it was,
Oh my God.
I'm in mom mode, but I'm also in, trying to protect the dogs as well. And I did everything wrong.
Mm.
And in the process of, I severed my fingers on my right hand, my ring finger and my pinky finger, as well as the tendons and everything else. Again, I did everything wrong. I was highly trained, and I was about 45 minutes into trying to separate the animals and blood everywhere when it came back to me, and I realized what I was doing wrong. My husband
Um,
was able to get me to the hospital pretty quickly. They showed my fingers back on, but they told me at the time it was cosmetic, that I had done a lot of damage. And it was probably the most excruciating pain of my whole life, including childbirth, 3 times without epidural. So it
mm.
was it was a lot. Um,
Wow.
about a week into it, they sent me to an orthopedic, and the orthopedic wrote a prescription for pain meds and sent me on my way. Didn't even do an x-ray. And I am terrified of the pain medications because I have friends who became addicts just from a prescription. So I
Mm.
was terrified of it, and I ended up just getting by with Motrin. But after about a week, I was calling around looking for doctors, and nobody took my insurance. And I found this doctor in the next parish over from where I live, and he did not take my insurance, but he listened to me. And he told me he would consult. I had to pay out of pocket for the office visit and the x-rays. And if he agreed with the first orthopedic surgeon, then, I paid full price, and that was that. And I went back to my doctor. But if he disagreed, he would see what he could do. Um, let's just say he disagreed. And about 3 weeks after the initial injury, he did a surgery to try to reattach the tendons in my right finger. I'm holding up my hand, even though this is
Mm.
a phone interview. But he did. He was able to reattach my tendons inside, and he told me that he didn't expect me to regain the use of my hand or control of my hand. And what was really strange is the moment it happened, and I no longer have the use, my right hand is my dominant hand. All of a sudden I remembered my childhood dream.
Mm.
And I had been writing off and on, especially poetry, and I had submitted poetry off and on through the years. And I'd never heard a word back, not one piece of feedback, not even a rejection letter. So I had really given up. Um, But as I was being wheeled into the emergency surgery at the ER the first time, I remember telling that doctor that my childhood dream was to be a writer. And if they saved my hand, I was going to try. And she said, well, you can do the speech to text. There are all kinds of programs. There's ways around it. They were preparing me for being handicapped for the rest of my life. My hand specialist, Dr. Donlin, he did the same thing. He was telling me this is a cosmetic surgery. We don't have a lot of hope. When I went to occupational therapy for the very first time, I still had pins in my fingertips. I had 3 fingers were pinned to my palm, and
Mm.
one was just like wrapped up and sewn in there.
Oh,
Um,
good.
yeah, I didn't think I was going to hold a hairbrush. I didn't
Mm.
think I couldn't brush my teeth. My husband had to help me wash and dry my hair. It was a lot. And when I started occupational therapy, they were going to put me in where they were going to teach me to use my left hand to do the dominant hand things like writing and
Mhm.
using a knife and little things like that. Um, we get into the therapy. I was there for about a year. And I remember at some point talking to the therapist, I was constantly sharing my testimony. And I remember thinking, if all of this happened, so I could tell this girl across the desk from me about Jesus, then it was worth it. And she was actually a Christian, but there was another woman in the room that was, she was a physical therapist. She was always listening, but she wasn't my actual therapist. And one day my OT had to go out of town. It was holiday season, and this lady filled in for me. She had shared with me in the past that she was an atheist. She would roll her eyes when I'd start talking to, testimony things and talking about Jesus. She would really roll her eyes about that. And I remember when I was that person. So I never said anything about it. But the day that she had me as her patient, she said, please, no Jesus stuff. I don't need to hear about that. We had other things in common, like music. She said, let's talk about rock and roll. I just couldn't help myself. I kept coming back to Jesus. And she was really hard on me in the session, really pulling. It hurt. I was in a lot of pain. And we were walking out, and she was a little smug about it. She knew she hurt me. And I was walking out and I was rubbing my hand real good. And all of a sudden we heard an audible snap. Now, what was left of the bone in my finger is so thin and tiny that it's like a sliver of bone. And I do break my fingers frequently, especially my pinky and my ring finger often. And that's what we assumed had happened. A couple of days before, I'd had a round of x-rays, and we could see that there wasn't much progress. As a matter of fact, there was regression. So I was losing mobility in my hand, and there wasn't much we could do about this. It was because the tendons were shortened, and just the damage to the muscles. Well, when that girl and I were walking out, after she'd been very hard on me, we'd heard this snap. All of a sudden I could straighten my hand. And the day before I couldn't, and it didn't hurt. And they sent me for x-rays right then and there. And you can see in the x-rays, so the week before I have a curve, and then the next day my hand is straightened out. It was very fast. Within about 2 weeks, I was released from the doctor completely. I had no more occupational therapy. I had regained 90% use of my hand. And you can see this, Pamela, your listeners cannot. I still cannot make a fist, but I can close my hand. Yes. And one of the first things I started doing was writing. I was writing my poetry. I write my short stories. I write, we have inspirational minutes. They're basically audio devotionals, but whatever it is, that was really a lot of my therapy, was writing. And God took this throughout this entire experience, and he turned it around. In the same week that I had my healing, the same exact week. It was November of 2017, and a publisher online, a good friend of mine who is a mentor of sorts to me now, saw a comment that I had left on a blog post and saw something there enough to reach out by email and engage with me and encourage and nurture and tell me the things that I needed to do in order to become a professional and eventually award-winning writer. So it was absolutely the injury that should have left me permanently handicapped, that God not only healed me, but he redeemed it, he turned it around, and he gave me my childhood dream. Now, I did start off telling you about my oldest, who was nonverbal until the age of 6. He is now writing. He's writing screenplays. He's writing
that's awesome.
Animated series. He has dreams as well. So
that is wonderful. Okay, so let's unpack some of this, because we went through a lot. The one thing you said or one of the things that you said that really stood out to me was, we find ourselves in these places.
We really do.
And what do we do when we're in these places? Lean on God.
In the past,
what did you do? Tell us.
Well, I was going to say, in the past, I would shut down. I would cry. I would give you all kinds of excuses of why I can't. But I had been a Christian for a few years, and I had come to a few moments in my life, like supernatural events, where you have no choice. You have nothing left but to turn to the Lord. And this was in the beginning, when I was just starting to do that first. So now my answer is, I go to God immediately. My friends know this. Even if I have, somebody's road raging at me, I will pray. I will pray first. That's the first thing that I do, because God can do what I cannot.
Yes. Thank goodness, right? Pray, wait, and trust. That is that is what we do to get to the next level. And then I love what you said, or reference to God's plan prevails, even though, we may go in all these different directions. His plan still prevails. So we have that
He
hope.
took,
We have that hope and promise.
well, he took my hodgepodge past, my strange resume, and even being a special needs mom, and he put it all together to use it for what I'm doing now, not just with ministry, but with radio, with writing. I have a lot of friends who are special needs parents, and sometimes it's just being able to encourage another parent who
Yes.
is going through a hard time. So,
Yes, that is wonderful. So do you have an online community or a Facebook group that you guys meet together to just encourage and support one another?
yes and no.
Oh,
When it
okay.
comes to social media, I'm not as great at social media. I get really overwhelmed. I have ADHD, so I get really overwhelmed really quickly. I also doom scroll, so I will lose way too much time scrolling. Now I
Yeah.
do like everything because I want to be an encourager. So I try to I try to comment, but
Uh-huh.
because I lose so much time, I have to be really intentional with it. I respond to my messages on Messenger, on X, and on Facebook. I'm very good at responding. As far as the actual social media itself, I'm not very great at that. If you and I connect, you will have my phone number. Usually it starts with email, but it goes straight to phone number. And we're texting, we're talking on the phone, we're up all night, and um, I'm so blessed to have an incredible network of prayer warriors who have walked with me in the valley, but have also been there on the mountaintop and praised with me. So I'm so blessed. That's what we do as far as community. It's really all about connection. And if you want to connect with me and my friends, do so. Just reach out, because I do respond and I love to pray with people.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because a lot of times people need prayer, but like the radio stations, there's not a hotline all night long anywhere. Well, there may be, but I just don't know where. Or I guess if you go to each time zone, there may be prayer channels that you can dial into. But that's really good to know that people can
Well, I
contact you.
love K-Love, and I have a lot of friends who work over there. So we're going to
Ooh,
shout
I
out to
love
K-Love.
Caleb
And they have a
too.
prayer app.
Oh,
So if, all
ooh.
else fails, you can go download the K-Love prayer app. And
I
this
love.
is real time, not just people who work at K-Love, but other listeners
Mhm.
tune in and pray for each other and with each other as well. So that's an option. I would love to do that with Christian Mix. Unfortunately, I don't have the capability of making an app. And but Brian and I, we do offer prayer.
Uh-huh.
And Brian Tucker is the director and my co-founder, and he's my brother from another mother. So we had no idea that we were siblings. We just were not related. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, I love Brian too. I love the Christian Mix 106, and my show does air on there, so I'm happy about that. And as far as your web app, we're going to talk about this dog fight in 1 second. But I do, I actually write apps or come up with that, but I want to start a business doing that. So I would love to connect with you to get maybe the prayer app going for you guys and
I
make
would
that
love
happen.
it.
I would love that. Yeah.
That was one of the things with the Christian Mix. I mean, it is a radio station. We love our music, but we want to be connectors.
Yes.
So we want, and we also want to be encouragers. So anybody that's out there and using their talent to serve and glorify the Lord, we want to encourage you. We want to connect you. I have the background with publishing now. I have a lot of friends in this industry, and I've been able to introduce people, take them straight through an open door that otherwise would have been unavailable to them, just because, that's what I love about the Christian community in general, is iron sharpens iron, and we do lift
Yes.
each other.
Yes, we do. And I think when we're having struggles, we're just not in that place. It's like, you've heard movies or saying, say right time, right place, like right situation. It might be the right person, the right people, but it might not be the right time, or it might be the right time, but it's just not the right circumstance. So once you're in alignment and incongruent with that, with God as the center, your own focus is on Him, then it is just like, wow, I get to do this every day. It's a whole different situation.
It
So
is.
that's
And I
wonderful.
have people who say, how do you work so much? I don't really consider it work. I have my day job that I get a paycheck for, and everything else is passion. And I get really excited about what God has done, not just in my life, but hearing other people's testimonies. And I remember when I was in that seeker phase, and I was very attracted to these miracle stories and these testimonies. I didn't really understand why. So I want other people, like I want somebody that doesn't really know about the Lord. They believe in a higher power, or they feel like that they have a desire to be a good person, but they don't know what any of this means. Those are the people that I want to reach, the in between.
Yes, I love that. And the light, shines through us on the other people. It really draws people to us. Jesus light does. It's not, we're just the vessel. We're just the conduit that He uses to reach other people. So this dog fight that almost changed your life, but it got you on your path to writing.
Oh, and I
so
want to say I kept all the dogs. I still
what?
have them. I kept
Oh,
all the dogs.
I was going to ask you if you did still
We don't
have them.
have problems anymore with dog fights, but everybody's trained. Everybody has their own little space. Everybody is loved and wanted. And I did leave the rescue because it was one-handed, and there's not much I could do. My husband stayed on until the summer of 2021. So, but God made a way for both of us to leave, and we're
Uh-huh.
both employed with for Christians, so we get to serve the Lord with our day jobs as well. So
That is wonderful. Well, that's good to know. I was concerned about the dogs and the dog fight and all that, because my sister she had a rescue, and it didn't turn out as well as yours. So it was horrible, but there was so much blood, like you were talking about. It was a very traumatic
trauma.
experience. So not just were you injured, but I'm sure you probably had trauma from all that as well that you had to deal with.
Let's put it this way: I hear dogs growl, even neighbor dogs down the street, and they're playing, and I hear them growl, and it does make my blood run cold. And I'm very careful with my animals, but it was because of that situation. It taught me how to be a lot stricter, a lot more aware, and I'm very careful walking, things like that, because with me, I was very blessed. I don't believe in luck anymore. I was blessed. Absolutely. God definitely redeemed that situation. But I have seen people, fatally mauled. And especially when you're working with an aggressive animal, it is. I really caution people I love rescues, but there are certain breeds that if you do not have experience with, I really caution you to rethink that, no matter how cute they look.
Yeah.
You But I have that experience, and
And you
I'm
could share.
here. So
Praise the Lord through the
yes,
blessings, through the but God testimony. That's amazing.
that is.
Um,
And what's really great is if I showed you, like if we were in person and I showed you my scars, you would not notice them until I point them out.
oh, that's wonderful.
That's
Yeah.
how amazing the healing was. And
Mhm.
even the doctor, I worked with him in advertising later, and uh we talked about it, the fact that I'm still marveling over the fact that I'm here and I'm able to do as much as I'm able to do. he's
Yes.
I say he saved my dream, but if I know God the way I know God, he would have turned that back around too. There would have been something.
Yes, for sure. And it would be a bigger story. I mean, I love what you said too, about your therapist. I'm curious, did she come to the Lord, or were you able to witness to her? Because I love what you said. If all this is happening so that you could share Jesus with her, then it was worth it.
Well, I want to say hi to Cindy because I'm sure she might come across this video. We are still friends in real life, and we
Okay.
talk once in a while. So I do want to say hi to her. Her buddy was the atheist. I don't know whatever happened to the buddy, but I do know that Cindy rekindled her relationship with the Lord.
Oh,
And yeah, so I get real excited about the fact that, these are my friends, here in the world, but we're going to get to go to the kingdom together.
yes. Yes, that's the truth. It's not just here, it's there for eternity. And that is the message. We are here to share the message of salvation so that none would have to perish. That's what Jesus' heart was, to love and to walk in that fruit of the Spirit, to walk in the Spirit and to really discern, what people need. And a lot of times when we're in that discerning, they feel it too, and they are drawn to you. They're drawn to me, just like our listeners out there. If you're drawn to someone, it's not just an accident. If you need something, from the Lord, and He is drawing you, because that's what He does. We are chosen. He chooses us, and we do have a mission and purpose. If you're still here, you have a mission and a purpose and an assignment to carry out. So, what is your favorite scripture that you want to share? And what is a message, anyone listening, Christian or not, that you would share to help them to increase their walk with Jesus or even meet Him?
Well, you're asking me to pick a favorite scripture, and I have so many.
And it's hard. It is.
It
Me
is
too. I'm
hard.
the same.
Um, I've also off and on struggled with depression in my life, and the one when I was a seeker, the one that kept me coming back to seek more from the Lord was Jeremiah 29:11. It shook me to think that if there was a God, that He knew me
Mhm.
and He was concerned about me, but He has a plan for me. And that's really what it was. I remember when I got hurt, that's what I said to God. Was I was on my back porch, I was crying my eyes out. I loved my job and I was good at it. And I knew I couldn't do this anymore because it was a physical job and this is a physical injury. And I was bawling and I said, Lord, if I had forgotten my childhood dream until that moment, I said, if you will help me unbury my talent, I will use it for you. I will serve and glorify you. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I will. And He did. And in that moment, I think He was teaching me the very definition of Romans 8:28, that He will turn everything around for your good if you are called according to His purpose. And that's
Yes.
what He did. The good, the bad, the ugly, He will redeem every single second of it. He will turn it back around and it will glorify Him.
Yes. Those promises are so great that we can stand on those, Jennifer. I just love it. I love the Lord, and I'm looking for great things. And anybody out there, if you're going through something, we all are going through something. It may be horrific, it may be small, but it's horrific to you. Whatever it is, it matters to God, because what matters to you matters to Him. And He loves you and He has a plan for you. And we're here to encourage you and build you up and support you in whatever your mission or purpose is. So please reach out. And where can people find you, Jennifer? Tell us.
You can find me online at Jennifer Cotney, Cotney. You can also find me under Christian Mix 106. I am all over the brand, all social media. If you go to our website, christianmix106.com, you can fill out a feedback form and you can reach me directly. I get all of those emails and I do check them every couple of days. I'm not as good as I used to be, but if you will all forgive me, I have 5 different email addresses. So, and I have 2 full-time jobs. So it's a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you're amazing. I appreciate you sharing your amazing story, your but God testimony. I love that. And I love that you are continuing to write and fulfill your mission and purpose. And those writings will be out there for eternity for other people that come along behind you that need that encouragement and support. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, most definitely. And listeners, reach out to Jennifer, Christian Mix 106, Jennifer Cotney, and connect with her. You never know what might happen through a connection. And everyone, please stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you for joining us today on the 360 Network for Women and Real Heart Talk podcast. We're so happy you could join and hope you stay tuned for the next episode.